Roseman.
Here.
Brennan Riley.
Excused.
Donna. Here. Lisa Checkley. Here. Dennis Schaffner.
Here.
We have 2 vacants.
Okay.
You do have 4.
So we had an opportunity to review the agenda. We have a motion.
Move to accept the agenda.
I'll second it too.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Minutes. Do we have a motion?
I don't have any additions or corrections.
So are you making the motion?
No, I'm just, usually that's the next question. Are there any additions or corrections?
I'll make the motion.
This
to
is by way of a
accept.
cue card. Just saying.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. Who's doing it?
I did.
Thank you.
All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed?
Carries.
Okay, community leader reports. Kern County Sheriff.
On my way over earlier, they were running code. They were busy. They might have late.
California Highway Patrol. Assemblyman Tom Lackey's office.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. So I just have a quick announcement. Assemblyman Lackey is going to be hosting a community coffee here in Roseman on Saturday at 10 a.m. here in this location at Home Hall. This Saturday.
I have it on my calendar, but I forgot.
So he's very excited. So he's going to give a legislative update. Right now, the legislative session is really ramping up. They're getting close to the House of Origin deadline. So, which means that if a bill hasn't left its original house, then it's no longer going to be able to move forward. So he's very excited to give everybody here in Roseman a legislative update and hear from constituents. So again, that's going to be May 18th, this Saturday at 10 a.m. here at Home Hall. Thank you.
Someone new to take my position out here in East Kern. Her name is Laura Lynn Wyatt, and she's a realtor from Tehachapi. She's been involved in the community for many years in Tehachapi. Her husband is a retired CHP officer, and you're all going to love her. She is at a Police Foundation dinner in Tehachapi tonight representing Supervisor Scribner, so she couldn't be here. And I'm sure that you're going to see me around even after she's here because I'm still going to be working for Zach. I'm just moving into a different position for him. A couple of quick announcements from Supervisor Scribner. Zach was out here last Thursday at the RCSD building. We had a East Kern Economic Alliance meeting. Some of you were there. Lisa was there, and Bill and John was there. We had a great meeting. The economic development of East Kern is coming along, and some of the plans are coming together from the Economic Development Specialist, the DOD OEA grant that you guys have heard a lot about. Alexia Spada and Amanda Barnes are helping to generate more economic activity out here in the East Kern. And so Zach gave an update at that meeting. We were also at the Historical Society, the Antelope Valley Historical Society 60th anniversary. Francis was there, many of you were there. And Zach presented, and he was able to speak to the group that were there that night also. It was a wonderful event. And I have one more thing on the parks. The Roseman Park, I spoke with Carl Brewer from General Services. I've been trying to follow up on what is happening. Lisa had requested an update on the Glendower Park. I think it's called Roseman Park officially, on Glendower Street and Rosewood. And so this is a project that has been approved. There's going to be resilient surfacing work that's done. There's going to be new shade areas that are going to be added, and there's more work that they're going to do to this park. It's in construction right now, construction services. They're working on purchase orders, And the work should begin very, very soon out there on the park. That it's already been funded and approved by the board, and it's part of this year's budget for the county. So that's going to be good. And I'm going to try and get Carl Brewer from General Services, who works with the Parks District out here, to come and speak to our group here at RMAC over the summer months. So I'm going to see if I can get him in touch with you, Bill, and we could get him on an agenda maybe in July or August to give you an update. Because there are a lot of projects that the county's actually working on right now around the area, and it would be good to get everybody up to speed on all that Kern County is doing out here.
Tell them that our community expects them to be done by September 1st.
Okay. I will pass that along. Duly noted. And then the last piece of information that Zach wanted me to pass on is that all pot shops are to be closed by May 24th. And so everything after May 24th in Kern County is illegal and is operating illegally. And now it's going to be a matter of the Sheriff's Department having the resources to go in to close all of these illegal cannabis dispensaries in Kern County. So just so you know, all the dispensaries are to be closed no later than May 24th. And there's no exemptions and no exceptions to that.
So how are we going to make sure that we have the sheriffs or the manpower, whatever they want to call it, to make sure that they all do get closed and stay closed?
Well, it's like any other business that's operating illegally. They will be fined. They will be shut down. Their product and their money will be confiscated. So they're running a huge risk if they stay open after that date. How is it going to be enforced? You're going to have to contact the Sheriff's Department down here, the substation in Roseman, and let them know if you see them operating after May 24th. And you know, the more pressure we put on those shops, the more they're going to be discouraged from operating here, and they're going to perhaps move somewhere where they're not going to have so much heat on them. They can probably move over to Cal City. Cal City, I think, is legalizing the cannabis dispensaries. So.
Okay.
That's all I've got. Yes?
There are signs on the freeway for the pot shops. Are those going to be removed?
I'm not. They're probably illegal signs to begin with, so I don't know. That would probably be code enforcement that we would need to reach out to.
Well, yeah.
John?
Mike, question about the customer that comes to the pot shop. Now, is the customer committing a felony by trying to buy from a shop that's outlawed?
I doubt it's a felony. It's hard to get a felony anymore in Kern County,
Yeah.
so unless you murder somebody. But probably a misdemeanor.
Misdemeanor?
I would imagine it'd be a misdemeanor.
So the sheriff could ticket a few customers, and maybe the word would get around.
Probably so. Yeah, we're hoping that the Sheriff's Department comes down heavy and strong against these dispensaries. They've been very unpopular for a long time out here. So,
Thank you.
okay, thanks.
You're going to have to go to Cal City.
That's a good idea, John. Thank you.
Yeah, right. Order online.
Okay, any questions for Mike? Roseman Community Services District, Greg, you have the floor.
Yes, good evening. Just to let everybody know that right now we are in the middle of our budget process for the 2019-2020 fiscal year, and we have a budget workshop on Friday where we're going to be discussing, how we spend your money. And I encourage people to come out and be a part of the process, take an understanding of what we're facing and what we're looking at, and how we're spending the people's money from this community. And we are just started our new percolation study for the wastewater treatment plant last week, and hopefully by next month's meeting I should have some figures for everybody as to, we had to go down another 4 feet, we're down to 9 feet now, and trying to find that sweet spot for percolation. So far the numbers coming in do look good, but we need to make sure they're sustainable. We are looking into acquiring water in this next year's budget. So we're implementing the process to go out and purchase water rights to make sure as we continue through this ramp down from the water adjudication that we'll have water for the community, you know, going into the future. So a lot of moving parts, and encourage everybody to come out to the meetings and participate and make your comments known, so that way we can better serve you. Thank you.
What time is that on Friday?
10 a.m. Friday morning.
10 a.m.
And it'll be a marathon. We don't know how long it's going to last.
Roseman Chamber of Commerce, Jack.
Yeah, we got actually quite a bit going on. I guess start off, re-elections were tonight, so myself, Jack Miller, and Jed Strange were re-elected to the board for another 3 years. We're getting real close on the Roseman Event Center. We're getting ready for final inspection on the canopy, and then just installed some water lines, Terry and myself yesterday, and Terry finished it up today. And then we're going to fine grade the lot and then put down the DG requirement that we got for the walkways in order to get the event center signed off. We've been planting some plants there. So we're hoping to have our first event sometime around October. And so if everything goes good, I think we might even be able to do something sooner than that. We don't know yet, but that's what we're going to plan on. We're also in the process of putting down the brick pavers. So if there's anybody who wants a brick paver and they haven't paid for one yet, we're getting ready to lay all those shortly. We did submit 3 grants to the county. Just have to wait and see if we get them or not. One was for cement walkways and rest areas for the event center. Second grant we submitted was for solar panels on top of the canopy, so that we can help support the energy costs of the event center and chamber itself. And then the last one was the doors and windows in the chamber are really old and outdated, and they're not energy efficient, so we submitted the third one for new doors and windows that are energy efficient for the Chamber of Commerce as well. And so quite a bit going on. We have Chamber has a mixer joint with this Antelope Valley Historical Society on June 13th, 5 p.m. at Willow Springs Saloon. So come on out and mingle with everybody. Chamber Historical Society. Was there anybody else that was going to also be participating with that?
Edwards Museum, but I'm not sure.
Okay. So if you get a chance, come on out. As an FYI, the chamber window was broken by rock recently, along with about 7 other businesses, I guess. They did catch the guy. So we have a broken window that's boarded up at the moment there at the chamber. Let's see. I think that's, the last thing that I forgot to mention in our meeting tonight is we did have a meeting with the September Fest committee. We did decide on September 21st is going to be our date for the September Fest. That seemed to have the biggest pluses, and it was still within the time frame that Dennis was talking about. Our theme is going to be the POWMIA. Try to remember what was our theme?
In honor of our POW and MIAs, forgotten no more.
Right. So that'll be our theme, and we'll be doing a launch on that pretty soon. The website's going to include this year online registration payments for the September Fest, as well as online registration payment and donations for the chamber membership as well. So, so we got a lot going on, and we've been really busy lately. Anybody has any questions? Yes.
Pardon my ignorance, but where is the Willow Springs Saloon?
I have no clue. I've never been there.
It's in Willow Springs.
It's in Willow
And
Springs,
as you
yeah. I
go
don't have an
about-
address yet.
Before
I
you
don't
make the
know.
big wide turn to the left, you go down into the wine
It's on the right.
vine,
Go,
and you circle around it.
Oh,
you go to 90th, you make a right, and a little flat that there's, off the left, it's called Truman, you'll turn onto that. And it ends, it's a dirt road, but you'll make a turn before that, it goes into the Willow Springs area.
okay,
And
so
you
it's
can't
down,
miss the saloon, it's, just looks like a saloon.
So maybe we can do up a flyer, maybe find the location, and I'll make that part of the flyer with some
Yeah, that's a good
directions
plan.
to it. Yeah.
some of the room are more familiar with saloons than others.
So, yeah, it'd be a good event, but I've never been there.
Watering
so I
hole.
don't know.
Yeah, why, yeah.
Okay, was there any, did you have a question, John?
No, I just wanted to make sure I didn't go to Willow Springs Raceway
No.
for their snack bar.
Confusion,
Yeah, it's-
that's exactly the point.
right. Well, Willow Springs is an area, not a location.
Right.
It's a big difference between a raceway and a saloon.
Most of it. Right.
Right.
5 p.m. 5 p.m. on June 13th. It'll be 5 p.m. June 13th for the
Got it.
mixer.
Those of you who belong to the historical site will definitely get an email on those.
I would also encourage you to reach out to VFW American Legion, since you're tying it in with POWMI. I'm really happy to hear that.
Yes.
And if you need help filling out the DD form 2535, to request a file where I can help you with that as well.
Yes, we're looking into both of those. We just had our first meeting. One of the thoughts that we had was we can find some POWs currently that have gone through that, get some names, and we want to do kind of like a wall for the parade, and then display that wall maybe at the September 5th, so people can see.
Well, that's another reason to reaching out to VFW.
Absolutely.
And,
Well,
and
we usually
especially
do.
the American Legion.
Right, we usually do. So, but I'll make sure that,
Well, early,
yeah,
like right now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had our first meeting last night.
What's taking?
I've already started.
All right, you got my contact information for that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, Southern Kern Unified School District, Carol.
Okay, well, I have a lot of stuff to tell you, because you know it's the end of the school year. I'm gonna go over here so I can look at everybody.
What's the feature?
So, graduations are coming up, so I thought I'd tell you when all the graduations are and where. So the alternate education is graduating on Thursday the 30th at 6 p.m. in the Roseman High School gym. That would be Abraham Lincoln and the name of the other school escapes me.
Rare Earth.
Rare Earth, yes, Rare Earth. Okay, so Roseman High School and the Pratt Academy are graduating on June 4th at 6 p.m. on the football field at Roseman High School. West Park is having a promotion ceremony for their kids on June 5th at 8 a.m. in their amphitheater. They have an outdoor amphitheater by the fields in the back. And Roseman Elementary is that same day at 9:30 in their cafeteria. Tropical Middle School is June 5th at 7 p.m. on the Roseman High School football field. So that's all the graduation times. So this week we celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week, and the Teacher of the Year was Lori Horton. I don't know if any of you know her, but she's worked for the district for 22 years. And she's retiring this year. She's going to be missed. I went to a valedictorian honors banquet for all of the students who are graduating with a cumulative grade point average for their high school career with 4.0 and above. And there were about 15 to 18 students that have gotten straight A's all during their high school. It was really impressive. They all had goals for the future and plans for what they were going to do next. And it was really wonderful. Plus the high school band, not the band, like a little small ensemble played for that, and that was great. Yesterday at the board meeting, there was a scholarship awarded to Abraham Grimes, and it's not a scholarship for the top people, but it's for someone who's disadvantaged and has overcome all those things, has a positive attitude, and all those things. And I forgot the name of the company that gave that award, but it was $2,500.
CFW.
Huh?
CFW.
Yes, whatever that means.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed because our teacher for our ROTC, our junior ROTC program from the Air Force, resigned and has taken another position. When the school districts heard that we were laying off the local school districts because there is a teacher shortage, they came and tried to hire our teachers away and offered them a $10,000 signing bonus. And so many of our teachers took jobs in Lancaster and Palmdale because of that. So, however, we are looking at a new program called the California Cadet Corps. And so this one isn't affiliated with any military thing, it's just for California. But I brought this information if you want to look at it. And they're talking about putting it at the middle school and having it as another elective because they don't have enough electives at the middle school. And so I think that would be a good positive thing. So they are going to provide everything, including they do not need a military officer for this. They just need a credentialed teacher, and they will pay to train that teacher. So they're going to do the training, and they're going to provide all the uniforms, all the curriculum, and everything. We just have to pay the salary. So there's going to be a presentation on this program on our board meeting on the 29th. So if you're interested in finding out about this, come to that board meeting. Our board meetings are at 7 o'clock. And you'll have to look on the website because they change locations all the time. So you'll have to find out where it's going to be because I don't know yet. It'll probably be in the district office though because of that. Also, Roseman Elementary School PTA is having an art show on Friday, May 24th from 5:30 to 7. So these are TK students all the way through 5th grade art. So come and support them. And now I want to talk about something that...
Is that art show in the cafeteria?
Everything's in the cafeteria there. I think so. Now, we have a thing called the LCAP. And the LCAP is a way that we get funding for students with needs. They are low-income students, foster kids, homeless kids, whatever, and we get extra funding so that we can support these kids. But one of the requirements, it says right here, let's see. Read this. Each school district must engage parents, educators, employees, and the community to establish these plans. These plans will describe the school district's overall vision for the students, annual goals, and specific actions. We need community members. You don't have to be a parent. We need people to come to these meetings. Anyway, there's a whole list of them that, I didn't get this email because I was out of town visiting my mother for Mother's Day until recently. So some of them have already gone by, but if you're interested in going, there's, what's the date today? 15th or 16th?
16th, yep.
Because this says Tuesday, May 16th, and I've been going, well, it doesn't seem right. That it's probably supposed to be Thursday, May 16th. So there's one tomorrow at 3:30 at the district office. There's one on Monday, May 20th at 10 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. And then one on Tuesday, May 28th at 6 p.m. And this is a chance to meet with the superintendent in a really small group and give your input, ask questions, bring up concerns, those kinds of things, and find out what we are going to do for our special needs students. So anyway, if you want to look at this pamphlet for the California Cadet Corps, I have it after the meeting. Thank you.
Roseman Community Cleanup deal.
Really nothing on any cleanups other than we're still working with RMAC. I brought in some paperwork tonight to give you, and I have some additional information once my phone gets uploaded. On the graffiti side, one of the black light poles on Diamond Street was tagged earlier this week, and we took care of that. So we did get that heat from the county so we can quickly remove it. It matches. So if you see that, give us a call. My number is 661-418-1378.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I'd like to add to that, we will probably be putting out a special meeting notice sometime within the next couple of weeks for a full-scale community cleanup. We're still kind of chatting about that a little bit, trying to figure what all the logistics are. That's why Gail is involved in it. Lisa Checkley's also involved in it. I hope to have one or maybe two meetings. One, I need to see what kind of sponsorship we can hold together to help with some aspects of this. So keep an eye out for those flyers. We're looking for as much participation as possible so we can try to get this thing going and have it be successful. Okay.
Can I ask a question about
Yes,
that?
ma'am.
Have you thought about making those signs, how they have them on the freeway? This mile is done by this family or this business or whatever. Have you thought about putting up those signs?
We haven't thought that large yet, Carol.
Having people.
At this point, we're trying to line up bins and things of that nature. I'd like to get participation from a lot of the community groups, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Knights of Columbus, the Sheriff's Auxiliary, as many different organizations as I can. I'd like to see them be a part of this. This is going to be the big cleanup for the year, for this year.
That's during the summer?
It'll be late summer, early fall.
Because sometimes the kids get light community service credits for doing things, so you might be able to get some high school students to come participate.
We'll be talking about a date really soon.
Yeah. Yeah, we do the same thing through our church. We have, we give them certain credits for volunteer activities such as that, so. But there'll be additional information on that to come over the next few weeks.
Can I add to that a little bit? I think it's the last week in October, there's a Lights Foundation. It used to be called something else, but if you have a major cleanup in anything that you do in your community, you can submit your paperwork on what you did and how many people were involved. And there's a possibility that you can get an award that is attached to money. So you might want to look that up. Because I used to do several things in the community and would submit our stuff that we did. We got some honorable mentions, but it's just worth it if we're going to clean it up anyway, and that's availability. The date's in October. We ought to go for it.
I'll come pick your brain some more on that.
All right.
Okay, Antelope Valley Citizens for Responsible Use of Water. Mr. Scott, you have the floor.
From a water supply standpoint, we're doing really well throughout the state. Over the last couple of months, the precipitation and the snowpack have both been above average. Not quite as high as remember the record year of 2017, but still pretty high. For instance, the
We're still working on it.
Yeah, as of today, we got a little
yes.
bit too. For example, the statewide Sierra snowpack is 156% of average for the state. And this past February was the third worst recorded in the state since the late 1900, well, 1921 in one area and so on. So therefore, most of the state's major reservoirs are at or above historical averages for this time of year, so we're doing really well. That led the Department of Water Resources to allocate, or up the allocation to the state water project contractors to 70%. That was as of late March. And what that really means is all the state water project contractors such as AVEC, Palmdale Water District, and Little Rock that are in the Antelope Valley can get 70% of their normal allocation, which is actually more than what most of them use and their customers use. So what that means is there'll probably be quite a bit more water available for water banking this year, which AVEC is also working on an additional water bank that they're looking at. They're purchasing quite a bit of land and going to be putting out a water bank. They've done tests and everything. It looks like it'll be work pretty well in the western part of the Antelope Valley. Oh, and one other thing, not a lot to add, but for those of you that saw for some time now, the Oroville Dam, the spillway, all the damage that happened, everything, that's basically been repaired, back in operation. They're saying it's performing as designed. And so, in fact, we started putting releases last month, actually, from the main spillway into the Feather River and so on. So that's back in full operation. And unless there's any questions, that's about it for the morning.
I have one. The sanitation facility that LA County has there at Avenue D, are they working with reclaimed water as well? And are they taking that to an aquifer and somewhere and injecting it?
The last I remember, yeah, they were sending that out to the eastern part of the Antelope Valley. And they were actually not injecting it, but they're actually banking it. They're putting it out, spreading it out and allowing it to go down. That was the last I heard. I don't know quantities or anything like that. But you know, they've also got the one in Palmdale. They're doing basically the same thing.
Okay, Greg, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I can probably address what's going on at Avenue D.
Oh, okay.
Even though I retired from there 3 years ago, the operation has not changed. LA County Sanitation at their District 14 facility on Avenue D in the 14 freeway, and their District 20 facility on 30th Street West and between Q and P in Palmdale. Their mission is to get 100% reuse of their recycled water. And a lot of the water is going out for ag uses right now. A lot of farming is using 100% recycled water, and you can see the pivot farms. They basically go from 60th Street West, from Avenue D to Avenue G, and from 60th to 90th. And so a lot of alfalfa crops and stuff like that out there being grown with recycled water. You'll see going down Sierra Highway and 10th Street West, you'll see a lot of purple fire hydrants. And you'll see purple air vents coming up out of the sidewalk alongside of the road. That's for your recycled water. That's part of the Antelope Valley Integrated Water Management Plan that is to eventually, the cities of Lancaster, the city of Palmdale, and all outlying areas of LA County, hope to eventually get the infrastructure in place where they can take delivery of the recycled water, which is basically right now between the two plants, about 31 million gallons a day of recycled water. And they want to use that to irrigate the parks. Sergeant Owens Memorial Park, I would imagine that's on the list to be irrigated with recycled water. I know the city of Palmdale, McAdams Park was the first one that they did. They ran the purple pipe down there to where they can completely do that large park with recycled water. So the plan is to probably one day phase out the farming operations, go to where they can have 100% reuse on all park sites, school sites, large green belts and things of that nature. And but you also have Paiute ponds, which is a natural bird habitat and migration area for birds from all over migrating there. And that, under federal law, has to be kept viable. So a portion of the Lancaster effluent will forever and a day be dedicated to Paiute ponds to keep those bird sanctuaries viable. But that's the plan that's always been in place for LA County Sanitation, is that they are hoping that one day they will be able to have 100% reuse of the approximately 31 million gallons a day of recycled water they're producing. And that will be a great conservation, because everything that they run purple pipe to and use recycled water, they're replacing, anytime the recycled water is used, that's conserving potable drinking water, which this valley needs. And you know, if this valley is going to grow and expand into the future, we need water, and that's a great way to get it.
That's tertiary.
Yes, that is tertiary Title 22 water. And for those that aren't familiar with the tertiary process, basically what you do is that you will take sewage water and you will treat it to a higher level than drinking water standards. Even though we will never use tertiary recycled water to drink, it is actually cleaner than potable water. It's the at the time that I did my last study on it, your potable water is tested for about 91 elements, different chemicals, different minerals, metals, things like this. The water that you get out of your tap, or recycled water, is tested for about 142, I believe. So they go and look for a lot more stuff in that water to make sure it's not there, to make sure it's safe. So I can't encourage people enough, especially being a director on an agency here, that we have the ability to recycle our water, that the community needs to embrace it. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something that's actually a huge benefit for all of us here. The more recycled water that we use for non-drinking purposes just conserves the drinking water we already have. Because remember, your lawns, right now you're using drinking water to keep the grass at the football field and at the school sites and parks. That's all drinking water that's being used to keep those facilities green.
Actually, can I address that?
Sure.
Actually, we are not allowed to to give to the kids the groundwater that comes from our wells. So we use well water to water our fields, city water for drinking and
You know, the real irony here is, we've all been drinking recycled water our whole life. It's a question of who's recycling. You know, the water that we take in, God recycled. And we're talking about man recycling it. You know, there is no new water on the planet. It isn't like we're manufacturing it. So, you know, the question is, who do you trust to do it? Man or God? That's what it comes down to.
Wasn't there a rainmaker in the old days?
You're killing me, Jack.
It was.
I mean, if he's a maker, he must be making water, right?
There is no new water.
Thank you, Greg and Scott, appreciate it. Okay, next is Albert Gatton. You want to give us a real estate report?
Albert Gatton with Keller Williams, Antelope Valley. Just want to give you a quick update. So for March, we had 25 closed residential properties here in the Roseman area, with an average sales price of $254,875. Now, last month, it was pretty active. We had 32 closings compared to the 25, with an average sales price of $271,209. So the average price per square foot went from $153.76 up to $162.82. So you gained about $9 a square foot in 1 month, which is pretty good. We currently have 45 homes that are pending sales with an average sales price of $265,498. And we have 46 current active homes for sale. And our active sales price is $297,695. So we're getting pretty close to the $300,000 list price.
Is that new or?
It's resale.
Resale.
And the average price per square foot on our active homes is $155.31 per square foot. So it looks like the pendings and the closed are actually probably a higher quality home, as they have a higher per square foot cost. So a lot of times that means they have upgrades and things, you know, granite counters, upgraded bathrooms, kitchens, things like that. But if you're looking for a weekly update, don't forget to check out the Roseman News. We do a weekly update in the Roseman News. And I also want to thank all of our clients, friends, and family, as our office won 2019's Antelope Valley's Best Real Estate Office. So thank you, everybody, for your support.
And they're breaking ground on 40th Street, I noticed.
Yeah, we're constantly seeing new homes starting to get built as the home prices increase.
And Albert is being a little demure by not mentioning that the real estate page in the Roseman News with his picture in the bottom right won Best Graphic at the State News Convention. But I don't think it was because of his picture. Although it might have been. Might have been.
Thank you, Albert. Our guest speaker tonight is Kern County Animal Control, and I did not write his name down, so. Nick Cola.
That's me. Nick Cola. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to jump at the podium. Again, my name is Nick Cohen. I'm the director of Kern County Animal Services. Thank you for inviting me, Lisa. Lisa gave me a call, goodness gracious, 3-4 months ago or something like that. Towards the end of last year, we had, and I don't remember the particular community, but there was a community here in Roseman that in about a 6-week time span had 3 separate dog bites that occurred for loose dogs that had gotten off the owner's property and bit people under different circumstances. So there was a lot of questions about laws that exist and you know, what we do as animal services and how we can sort of play a part in sort of educating the community and what we can and can't do. So Lisa asked me to kind of talk about that a bit. But first and foremost, Kern County Animal Services, we are the sheltering system in the county of Kern. We operate 3 animal shelters in the county of Kern, one right here in Mojave, one in Lake Isabella, and then the shelter in Bakersfield. We take in about 14,500 dogs, cats, and everything else you can imagine, dogs, chickens, geese, sheep, livestock, every year. We maintain 13 animal control officers. Those are field services unit. Our animal control officers are the ones you see that are picking up stray animals that are responding to complaints about animal cruelty. Those 13 animal control officers cover the entire county, about 8,500 square miles or so. About 17,000 calls a year for service they run. You know, we as the County of Kern's Animal Services, we came out with a sort of publicly stated goal about 4 years ago. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the futility that the County of Kern's Animal Services Agency, Animal Control at the time, the futility that we displayed for a good 40 years as far as the sheltering system is concerned. At our peak, we took in 32,000 animals. That was in 2011, and out of those 32,000 animals, about 22,000 of them were euthanized in the county shelters. So futile is probably a weak way to put it. We've really turned things around at the county's Animal Services Department. We went from, you know, where as far back as I could go where you have actual verifiable data, we went from euthanizing, you know, destroying almost 80% of all the animals that came into county shelters to currently we save about 80% of the animals that come into county shelters. So there's a lot of good things happening at the county animal shelters. What we're also seeing, which is really good to see from my standpoint and from the general county standpoint, is that our overall intake at all 3 animal shelters is kind of nosediving. It's been nosediving for about 5 years now. When we initially had relocated our facility in 2013, we took in about 16,500 dogs, cats, and other. And right now we're at about 14,000 animals a year. So a lot of that, the reason for that decline in overall intake and the steep decline in county euthanasia is simply because of spay and neuter. There is a lot of organizations that are in this county right now that are just promoting and practicing spay and neuter. Rescue organizations, nonprofit organizations, people that are just going out on the street and promoting spay and neuter and saving animals themselves. There's a lot of good progressive things that are happening as far as animal welfare is concerned in Kern County, across all of Kern County. What we're starting to see is just more people being active and being able to spread the word, talk about responsible pet ownership, talk about spay and neuter, and it's starting to take effect because we're seeing that effect in county shelters. Our calls for service is when you call an animal services and we send an officer out there to your house. They've been steadily declining now for 5 years. We're about probably 30% less calls for service than we did 5 years ago, and that just simply means that there's less animals out on the streets, which is a good thing, obviously. So if you're not aware, you know, the county has some really good programs that you can take advantage of. Not only do we recommend that you adopt your next furry family member, dog or cat or otherwise, our shelter here in Mojave could use your support. It's very difficult to find. It's an old, antiquated facility, and the animals that go into the Mojave Animal Shelter, you know, it's very difficult for us to find placement for them just because of where that shelter is located. It's hard to find. There's not much foot traffic. There's only one way in and one way out. You know, sometimes the signs are difficult to follow. So if you have neighbors, friends, family members, whoever that may be in the interests of getting a new dog or cat, please send them to the Mojave Animal Shelter. If they happen to be in Bakersfield, send them to the County Animal Shelter. We'll be glad to pair them up with a pet for life. And that's really how we've kind of dug ourselves out of this problem, reaching out to the community. kind of talking about the need to rescue shelter pets, and that's kind of how we've pushed that euthanasia number down. But there's also resources that we offer that you can take advantage of at the Mojave Animal Shelter, as well as the Bakersfield location and the Kern River Valley location, which is our spay-neuter program. The County Board of Supervisors in 2014, they began appropriating $250,000 a year, $250,000 a year for spay and neuter. And we've been the stewards of that $250,000 every year since. And about 4,000 spay and neuter surgeries on public animals have been realized every year since then. So it's that those dollars that your county board of supervisors are putting forth to spay and neuter that's really starting to make a difference. It's a voucher program for the most part. So if you know of somebody that has a pet, hopefully they're convinced that spay and neuter is necessary. I don't know how many conversations I have with people that are against spaying and neutering their pet for some god-awful reason. But it's really super important. Vouchers can be gotten from the Mojave Animal Shelter. They are low-income spay and neuter vouchers. The way we define low income is 200% of the federal poverty level. And that may not mean much to everybody, but we pretty much make sure that if you come in and you're asking for a voucher and you want to spay and neuter your pet, we're going to get you a voucher. So those are available at the Mojave Animal Shelter. We did just receive, we applied for and received a grant from the California Department of Food and Agriculture for $46,000 and something odd dollars. And that is to expand a program that we started in Bakersfield last year. It's called Save the Pitties. Those are a different kind of spay neuter voucher that have no copay, because our low income vouchers is a $20 copay. The Save the Pitties vouchers are for pit bulls and pit bull mixes, people that own pit bull and pit bull mixes that need to spay and neuter their animal. We don't require a copay. We don't even require you to license the animal. We just want to give you a voucher to get your dog fixed. It's free. Free spay and neuter for pit bulls. Please spread that word. And the reason why we have that program is because pit bulls are the most commonly euthanized animal, not only in our animal shelters, but in shelters across the nation. So, if you know of somebody that has an animal, specifically a pit bull, please send them our way to the Bakersfield shelter. Probably around the 1st of the fiscal year, July, we should be able to expand the Save the Pitties program to the Mojave Animal Shelter, and then there'll be free vouchers for people with pit bulls and pit mixes. So, a lot of good things happening in animal welfare, and I can answer any questions that anybody might have about anything that involves animals. Almost anything. Yeah.
What are the fees if somebody wants to go to Mojave and get a dog?
To adopt a dog, if you're a county resident, it's $85.
$85.
That's a dog. Cats are $50 for a female and $40 for a male. That $85 includes a spay-neuter surgery, a microchip, a license for a year, all vaccinations. The dog comes dewormed, and we'll even throw in a leash for you. And you're saving a life. I mean, you really are.
That's a good deal.
And if you were to get a dog off of Craigslist or some other venue, and you're going to go and spay neuter that animal, you're going to pay a lot more than $85 to get that spay neuter done. You're going to have to get your license. You're going to get a microchip, and to get it vaccinated, it's going to cost you a lot more than $85. And like I said, you're saving lives.
How often do we have an officer here in Roseman?
We have, like I said, 13 animal control officers. One animal control officer is assigned. I'm going to tack something onto this here in a second. We have one animal control officer who's assigned to work the Tehachapi, Mojave, Roseman, Boron, and North Edwards area. Yes, one officer.
That much?
Yes. That's why I said 13 animal control officers to cover 8,500 square miles. It's kind of difficult to get the places outlined in a timely manner. And then we had one animal control officer who covered the entire Kern River Valley, all the way up to Ridgecrest as well. And then another animal control officer that works the mountain communities, Fraser Park, Quebec, and then the Taft community, Button Willow, and the North County community, Shafter, Wasco, Delano, McFarland. One officer to cover all those areas. And then 9 or 10, depending on the time of day, officers that work the metro area. So we're always taxed. It's very difficult to get to calls in a timely manner. Unfortunately, our animal control officer who worked the Kern River Valley, who had been there for about 12 years, she left for Texas. So now we have one animal control officer, until we hire her replacement, that's covering all of East and Southern Kern and the Kern River Valley.
So we'll never see an officer out here.
Unless there is an emergency, and we try to make sure that they spread their time around, but it's pretty difficult. But once we should be hiring a new animal control officer probably mid-June. And then we'll be able to have the officer assigned to the Tehachapi, Mojave, Roseman area.
What are the license fees?
License fees, well, we try to incentivize licensing, that if you spay and neuter your pet, it's $15. If you do not spay and neuter your pet, it's $60. If you are a senior citizen and you spay and neuter your pet, it's $5. So we try to make sure that we give that incentive to spay and neuter your pet, because that's how we made any progress in this condition.
You're a senior now.
I've been a senior for a long time.
New questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Bill.
Good, ladies.
Just so we can make the public aware. Because we're unincorporated, we have already discussed this, so I just want to let everyone know. Because we're unincorporated, Kern County, we have no limit of 3 dogs per household, correct?
That is correct. The 3-dog limit, even in unincorporated areas, applies to most parcels that are under a quarter of an acre, approximately a quarter of an acre, 10,000 square feet or so. So there's not too many unincorporated properties that are smaller than that. And that dog limit, most of the properties out here are larger than that 3-dog limit would apply. And actually, believe it or not, the dog limit that is in effect is not, we enforce Title VII of the Kern County ordinances. The dog limit is actually a planning and land use ordinance. It doesn't mean we don't have some involvement in it. We usually work hand in hand with the planning, our code compliance. When we get a complaint about dog limit, we go out and verify that yes, in fact, they are dogs. And yes, in fact, there are more than 3. And then code compliance kind of starts the process there to get them to bring their numbers down. Although, to be honest with you, I was an animal control officer for 7 years. And actually, I worked Roseman, Mojave, and Tehachapi, Boron, and North Edwards for about 2 years. But I know that I would get those dog limit calls pretty frequently. And to be honest with you, if I came to your house and you had smaller than a quarter of an acre and you had 5 dogs and they were all well taken care of and they were spayed and neutered and they were licensed and you were a responsible pet owner, I am not going to make you get rid of 2 of your dogs. So we kind of usually, even in the county, even in properties and parcels that are small enough to have that apply, kind of take it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, now, dog houses for outside dogs. This is a big question here all the time. Everyone's under the assumption that dogs are not allowed to be trained. They're allowed to be trained, though, legally, if they have proper shelter, correct?
Yeah, and that's more complex of an answer than you might think. So it is not legal to chain your dog up for longer than, there's 2 different laws. There's a county ordinance that says 12 hours consecutively. There's a state penal code that says 3 hours consecutively. Our animal control officers enforce both state and local laws. So we usually typically choose to enforce the 3-hour limit. So if you chain up your dog, it cannot be chained for longer than 3 hours. Our problem with that is it's almost impossible to enforce, because I cannot sit in front of your house for 3 hours to verify that your dog was chained up for 3 hours. So it's a very complicated law for us to enforce. However, if you had a dog, there's people that, I treat my dog like they're my family. Not everybody does that, and I understand that, we understand that. So there are some laws that do allow for exclusive restraint on a property, and it's a tethering system. That's about the only method that's allowing systems, where the dog is tethered to the clothesline and it has the full run of the yard. But under all circumstances, whether it be chained or tethered or just outside, food, clean water, food, and proper shelter. And there is a definition of proper shelter in the ordinance code. Gets a little complicated, but it's basically a roof, 3 sides, and a floor, and it has to protect the dog from the elements.
I sleep with my shepherd. Does that make me weird?
I think you probably fit in with most of my staff.
I sleep with 3 big bulls.
You were weird without that, Jack. Oh, well, come on, man.
So I have a neighbor that has 25 to 30 dogs. They made him build a kennel.
Who's they?
The county came out and made him build a kennel. And And then now he's mad at all the neighbors because.
Who is your neighbor? I might know.
What's his name?
You know him, don't even say it, Carol, you know
Yeah,
him.
you know him.
So,
He spends a lot of
Yeah.
time complaining about everything.
I think he has a website too. I'm on his website actually. So that particular situation and situations like that, it's because a person has 25 dogs doesn't mean he needs a kennel. If someone has 25 dogs and they're breeding them and selling them, then you need a kennel. And when we say you need a kennel, we're not talking about the physical kennel. We're talking about a permit to operate a kennel because he's breeding and profiting from it. So there is breeding limitations in the county of Kern, and those breeding limitations say you cannot produce more than 1 litter per year, but the moment that you sell any of those litters, it doesn't matter how many litters you have, you need a permit to do it. They're called commercial animal facility permits. So the person that you're speaking of, that's what the issue was, not the 25 dogs. It was the fact that he was selling.
Well, it's just really noisy at feeding time. All the way, I live like a quarter of a mile away and I can hear it.
This process of, if someone has a problem with dogs being loose, and I understand the limitations of 13 officers, and Kern County is one of the larger counties in the state, so I can understand the limitations. I'm assuming that these assignments are fluid. I mean, it's not like you have 7 guys on the east side of the Tehachapis and 6 guys on the west side. But what is the expected response time if someone has a genuine emergency?
It really depends on the call type. And we were talking about sort of delineation of staff, it's literally under best circumstances. There was a time years ago when we had 3 more animal control officers than we're allotted right now, when we were able to assign an animal control officer to Tehachapi and an animal control officer to Mojave, Roseman, Fort On, and Edwards. Our response time is much better then. Now that we have 1 animal control officer, it makes it a little bit more difficult. They respond to calls on a priority basis, just like the sheriff's department would. So if you call us and there is a vicious animal, or there was a bite occurred and the dog is still loose, or if there an injured animal that was hit by a car or that is mortally wounded, those are priority calls. If it's a law enforcement assist, those are priority calls where an officer is usually going to drop what they do and respond right away. Typically, in the Roseman area, depending on the call type, our officers should be able to get to that location within an hour. Typically. Depends on the day of the week. Sometimes Mondays are backed up because people will call on the weekends because our officers are actively on duty Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We respond after hours on an emergency basis only. That, like I said, when an emergency, we're talking about a mortally wounded animal that's suffering. We're talking about a law enforcement assist, those types of emergencies. So people will often call us and say, hey, my neighbor's dog was out on Saturday. So when we come in on Monday, there's quite a bit of calls backed up. So the earlier in the week, the response time may be a little bit more than it might be towards the end of the week. But as staffing comes back up, as soon as we get another officer assigned to the Kern Valley, we should be back to where we were before. The majority of our calls for service for officers are out of Tehachapi right now. Roseman is probably second, with Mojave third, and then the outlying areas a little bit less so than that.
There's one central number?
Yes, I have business cards if anybody needs it, but it's 661-868-7100. If you are in need of an animal control officer after hours, you're going to contact the Kern County Sheriff's Department. They handle our calls after hours, and they dispatch our officers out after hours.
So are you saying that all your activity is calls for service? You don't like just generally patrol?
Yes, we patrol. It depends on the area if they have time to patrol.
I mean, you have like hot areas that you can patrol anyway?
Yeah, so that's going to happen a lot more in the outlying areas than it is in the metropolitan Bakersfield area. Our officers in the Bakersfield area, they run 25 or 30 calls a day, so they're constantly going. They don't really have time to generate activities for patrols. In the outlying areas is when we have the ability to do that. We've recently taken on sort of a community policing attempt for our officers in the outlying areas, so that we now assign officers more or less permanently to those outlying areas, so they get to know the residents, they get to know the problem areas, and they knock on doors as often as possible, so that the people get to know who the animal control officer is. And we had an animal control officer that was assigned to the Mojave area, this area, for 12 years, and he's been out with an injury since last May, so we've been kind of cycling new people in and out, and so it's difficult to have new people attend to an area they're not familiar with.
What percentage of your activity is calls for service versus patrolling?
Our patrol checks are probably 15 to 20% of the calls that they run. And when we say patrol checks, so a lot of times, I'll see if I can get them all, but the calls we respond to are stray non-confined dogs. So if you call me and you say there's a dog out in front of my house, I don't know who it belongs to, and then we'll ask, our dispatchers will ask, is the dog confined to your property? If you say no, it's just in the street, that's a stray non-confined dog, we'll go out and attempt to catch the dog. There's a stray confined dog. Stray confined means stray dog, I found it, it's at my house. We go out and pick it up most of the time. There is deceased animals that we respond to. There are owners loose calls that we respond to, which those are probably less than they have been at any time in the past.
What was that one?
It's an owner's loose, so it's an owner's dog that he's allowing to run.
Oh, not that the owner is loose.
I mean, it could very well be.
I was confused with the title.
There are times when both the owner and the dog are loose. But to answer your question, we do have a call type that's called patrol check, and those are both officer activated and called in by the public. So sometimes the public will call in and say, hey, my area is overrun with loose animals, or I keep seeing this loose dog, and we'll generate patrol checks for that area for a period of time. So probably, like I said, 15 to 20% of the time, the officers in outlying areas will spend that time patrolling. In the metropolitan area, 3% maybe at best.
I thought I heard, but I may be wrong, that there was a goal that Kern County set to be a no-kill
That's correct.
county, and I realize that's got to be really difficult, although maybe, I don't know, if it takes more money or who knows what. Is that a goal, and do you think it's achievable, or did they set a date, or what?
So I will be completely honest and let you know when I say they, it's me.
No. All right. I didn't know if it was the board or somebody.
No, that guy.
Yeah, it's this guy. So I've been with Animal Services since 2005. I think I touched on that I was an officer for the first 7 years of my career. I didn't know it was a career at the time, but it's a career now. And then at the time, when I wrapped up my time as an animal control officer, our shelters, like I said, were destroying an incredible amount of animals every year, dogs and cats mostly. It was deplorable. It was hard to come to work. The public didn't support us because we were doing such a poor job of getting animals out alive. So the thought in 2011 of having a no-kill sheltering system or a no-kill community, you might as well just ask me to, drive to the moon. It just wasn't going to happen, especially the numbers we were seeing. So when the city and the county had separated facilities, and the city now operates their own facility, and the county we as the county operate our own facility, what we saw is that we had half the animals that we had before. We had more space for the animals that we had, and we had the ability and the time to start developing programs intended to get animals out alive. So we started incrementally increasing the amount of animals getting out of the shelters alive and decreasing the amount of animals that were getting euthanized. The sort of industry term for the no-kill is 90% of your overall intakes are making it out of your shelter alive. 90%. And the industry says 90% because any municipality as big as ours, a pretty good portion of your animals are going to be irredeemable. I mean, they're going to be either too aggressive for the public or too injured to medically repair. So about 10% is usually that level. So when we say no kill, that's what we're talking about. When you hear an organization say, we're a no kill organization, it does not mean they do not put animals down. It means there's that 90% threshold of all the animals coming in. So when we separated from the city and we started developing programs and focusing on live outcomes, we started to see that euthanasia rate decline and that live outcome rate increase to the point where I remember at one point we were so happy because we got to a point where we were saving more animals than we were destroying. 52% of the animals that came into us we were saving, and we were ecstatic because we were so used to just oodles and oodles of adorable, cute animals that did not make it out of the shelter alive. So that 52% thing started to make us think, hey, I think the things that we're doing, the community is buying into it. And then as years progressed, 2014, 15, 16, we started seeing that live outcome rate start to increase to 60%, 65%, 70%. Last year was 75%. We're at 80% right now or so. So in 2015, Supervisor Couch had approached me and he said, hey, what's this whole no-kill thing? And I explained it to him, it's 90%. I hadn't really thought about it before, but he said, what do you think the odds are that the county sheltering system can be saving that many animals per year? I said, let me think about it. And I went back to my office and I looked at all the statistics and all the programs that we had going and the trend. And I thought, boy, I think we could do this, because we're trending in the right direction. If I continue to get community support, and then I could also, this is a secret, but then I could also use this to point at the board members and say, I need you to continue to give me spay-neuter funding so that I can accomplish this. And they have done so since then, because that's such a big piece of it. So if since then we've gotten that spay-neuter funding every year, we've continued to develop those programs, and we continue to see those live outcomes increasing. So when you ask me if it's achievable, I absolutely believe it is. I did a board presentation December 15th of 2015, I don't know why I remember that date, where I had said, I think that if everything falls in the right place, in 5 years we can accomplish it. So I think our goal is December 31st, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. And I will also say that, yes, we did come out publicly and say that that's our goal, is to be no kill, but I'll be honest with you that when we had talked about that, when we were still destroying 52% of 20,000 animals that were coming to us, it wasn't necessarily achieving the goal that was the point. The point was the effort to get there and how much support we can get from the community in doing that. Because honestly, if we're at a level where we're destroying 52% of all the animals that come to us, and I fail and I only achieve 88, did I really fail? So it was, and we're seeing a lot of that, a lot of community members that are supporting shelter animals, that are choosing to adopt shelter animals instead of getting animals other ways, people spaying and neutering their animals in droves. So we're starting to really see sort of the fruits of all that struggle in Europe.
Like the owner and say, we have your dog.
Absolutely. So another service we offer is we do implant microchips at the Mojave Animal Shelter. It's a $10 cost, $15 cost, sorry. Obviously the microchip gets implanted in your dog. It is a lifetime form of identification. Please listen to me. Microchips are life-saving instruments, but those microchips are only as good as the information that you put on them. I can't tell you. It's an amazing thing to see how many animals nowadays are microchipped, but it's also disheartening to see how many microchips go back to information of people that have moved years ago or gave the dog away or have a different phone number or no alternate contact. So we always get really excited, this dog has a microchip, and then we run it, and I gave that dog away 2 years ago. So yes, microchips certainly do help out. All of our animal control officers carry microchip scanners. So if you find a microchip, they can scan it and bring it back to your house, probably with a harsh warning, but bring it back to your house, and we don't have to bring it to the shelter. Saves you money, saves us resources.
So you can update the chips?
We can't, but it depends. There's a bunch of different microchip manufacturers for dogs.
And then you register it and you go online and you put all your information on there, and anytime they scan it, it'll go back to that information.
Oh.
Yeah, and depending on the microchip manufacturer, most of them have a website that you can go to and update the information whenever you want.
You can put a picture and everything.
Yep. What is the fee if, like, my dog gets impounded?
That
Mine
varies.
never got loose. Thank God.
I should
one
hope
time.
not, Lisa.
But if one does happen to get loose, what's the impound fee for that?
So that's going to vary. That's another one of those things. That's another one of those things where it would be beneficial to all of you to have a licensed, vaccinated and spayed or neutered dog if it does come into the shelter, because it's infinitely cheaper to redeem that dog. On average, for an unvaccinated, unlicensed, natural dog, so not spayed or neutered, if it comes into our shelter, within 1 day, it's $176 to get it back.
Now, do they have to be neutered when they leave? Is that a Kern County law
It is
yet?
not a law yet.
Okay.
I will say that we are currently working on revising ordinances
Okay.
and adding ordinances, and one of the things we're looking at, and probably going to try to pass at the board, is if a dog gets impounded, the first impound, it is a mandatory spay neuter. Because right now, actually, believe it or not, if a dog comes in twice, on the second impound, we fix it.
Oh, it is the second time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right now the way it's set up. Second impound is the department's discretion, which our discretion is to fix your dog all the time if it comes in. And then third impound is state mandate. We have to fix it.
Okay, thank you.
Greg?
Yeah, Greg?
Just had a question. You know, I've heard what you said, you know, you're trying to promote the adoption of rescue animals and pound animals. But you are correct. The facility is very hard to find. I've lived here 28 years, and I was cruising through Mojave, said, you know, why don't I go see where I can find this animal shelter? And it took me a while to find it. You know, I go to PetSmart all the time, and every weekend they've got pet adoptions there. They got these rescue outfits come in there, and they all set up inside there, and they're busy. The people are, fawning over the cute little kittens and dogs and stuff like that. You just want to take them all home. But the thing is there a way that you guys could maybe one Saturday a month come here to like Hummel Hall and have pet adoption weekend or pet adoption day, where you bring the animals here, and then the people in the community can come in here and trust me. You know, mom and dad come in there with 3 kids, and they see that little puppy or that little cat or something that they just really want. It's a lot easier to just take it home with them right then than to have to go to Mojave and go through the shelter. And I think if you guys could find the funds to go to Roseman and go to Mojave, go to Tehachapi, Ridgecrest, Boron, and have a pet adoption day where you bring the animals. You don't have to bring them all with you, but you just bring, about 15 or 20 dogs and 15 or 20 cats, and see if you can get rid of all of them, in one day. And,
I won't be coming to that. Because they'll all end up at my house.
That's the point I'm trying to make, is that if you make it easy for the people. I mean, face it, when we were kids, younger, where did most of us get our animals?
For an Albertsons?
Out in front of Albertsons. Somebody's got some little puppies or kittens, they're getting them away as you go in the store, and you just, oh, I gotta have this. I mean, every one of my dogs that I have were given to me by people who says, hey, you want a puppy? Sure. And it's the thing is that if you make it more accessible to the people, I think that you will have great success in having an empty facility over there in Mojave, because people will adopt them. Because if you go to PetSmart on any Saturday or Sunday, there's people over there filling out the paperwork, and they're paying $150, $200 for a dog or a cat.
So I have a few things on that.
Okay, so I will tell you, I have several times with the Cal City Shelter gone to Tractor Supply in Tehachapi with Wendy Nelson, and we have done pet adoptions with the Cal City Shelter dogs. Because Mojave is county, they're kind of hard to work with. The city of Cal City would let us do it. So we went there every week every month for weeks. I mean, every
Every week
for months, thank you, sorry.
We know,
Do you
just
know
pick
that
out the right
whole
one.
time that we went there, and we took probably 60 dogs over the time frame that we went there, probably for about 6 months. Through that time, 7 dogs were adopted. Approximately 7 dogs. And a few cats throughout the time. Did it bring more traffic to the shelter? Sure, it did, but it still didn't do as well as something like PetSmart. PetSmart, I was in PetSmart for a while with my dogs until they banned pit bulls from coming in there. Okay, 1 dog was adopted through us. We adopted out 1 dog through PetSmart in the time that we were there. We were there, 7 months at the Lancaster PetSmart. So, I mean, people do come, they do fill out applications, they do see, oh, how cute, but unfortunately, they don't adopt from those places unless it's a little tiny puppy that the kids do see. But the bigger dogs don't get adopted like that, Greg, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it don't. I wish it did. You know I wish it did. We could try to get something to where we could do like a bus day out there maybe. Take a bus.
2 things on that. Number 1, Lisa, there's new management at the county. You should ask them if they'd be interested in
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's me. So.
Well,
Let me introduce you to him.
I would be happy to work with you on some
hard.
offsite.
It's hard to get that.
But with
Organized.
it's not. There's not as much red tape as you might think, for us at least. So if we have an organization or an individual who comes to us and says we would like to assist in networking your animals at PetSmart, at Tractor Supply, at this location, what we can do now, because we have a volunteer program, is we sign you up to be a volunteer. There's some process where we got to put you through this license program with the county to make sure that you actually have a license, you can operate a vehicle. But after that, yes, we can allow you to operate on behalf of the county to take those animals out of Mojave. We don't do it in Mojave just yet because we don't have a volunteer base out here. But we do it in Bakersfield every other weekend. And what we do is, we don't partner with PetSmart, we partner with Petco, which is more or less the same thing. So that we kind of alternate. So 3 weeks out of every month, we participate in off-site adoption events at 2 local Petcos in Bakersfield. And they're mostly volunteer driven because we don't have the staff to pick up dogs, transport them out there, and bring them back if they don't get adopted. Alternately, we entered into an agreement with Petco, again, this is Bakersfield only, where Petco has said, we'll take care of your animals. So we give them cats, and they keep them in cubbies, and they clean them. And then they process the adoption. And they just call us and they say, hey, you got 3 empty spaces here, and then we send staff back out with more animals. So, and you are right, we've been doing this for long enough that there are a lot of people that will not walk into an animal shelter. Not, they want to adopt a shelter animal, but they feel, probably erroneously, but they will feel that an animal shelter is a doom and gloom place and they don't want to walk in there. So on top of that, a lot of our animals, they don't show well in a kennel because that kennel is such a small environment that its actual true personality doesn't come out through the kennel. So when we take animals out of the kennel environment, or we bring them to a Petco store, people are seeing the animals in a different setting. They don't have to go to the shelter, and those animals are displaying their true personality, so they're more likely to be adopted. So that's why we do so many off-site events right now. And alternately, we know the limitations that we have at the Mojave Animal Shelter. So the overwhelming majority of adoptions that we see at the Mojave Shelter, those are dogs and cats that we transport down to Bakersfield, and we participate in off-site adoption events there. So, and then the other thing to tag on to that is I've been complaining about that Mojave Shelter since I worked there, for all the same reasons that we just said. That is a catch and kill facility, as we call it. It is not made for live outcomes. If you look at it, the way it's constructed, there are still, we covered them up years ago, drop boxes. There used to be drop boxes on the outside of the shelter that are covered up now, where people would come at all hours of the night and dump whatever down a drop box. That just goes to show what the mentality was in Kern County 15 years ago. So we've come such a long way, but that facility is so antiquated. On the bright side, or maybe not, depending on how you look at it, our lease ends on that property in 2020, the end of 2020. So I know that Supervisor Scrivener and I have been trying to put our brains together for quite some time now to figure out an alternate location for the Mojave Animal Shelter, or at least the eastern and southern Kern Mojave Animal Shelter. to somewhere that's easily accessible, that's more inviting to the public, that's not in a corner of an airport where nobody can find it.
And the Mojave Air and Spaceport people do not want the shelter on their property.
They want us gone.
They want it gone.
And I will tell you why. Because we, and I'm not joking, we pay $10 a month rent.
That much?
Actually, I'm sorry, 20. So we pay $240 a year for rent on that facility. We're really going to need to put our heads together to find out where a new shelter would be. But the thing that is probably unfortunate for everybody in this room is we need to strategically place that location, the animal shelter, because we can't build a Mojave, a Tehachapi, and a Roseman shelter. So it has to be one for the eastern southern Kern area, and we have to base that on logistics and statistics. So what we do is we calculate, we see where the most people are taking advantage of resources, where the need is greatest. And right now, I mean, from statistics wise of animals and where they're coming in from, it's Mojave.
Mojave.
Really? Now, if you were going to ask me for foot traffic, where should you be? Yes, Tehachapi, but that's not where our animals are coming from. You know, we want to locate a shelter where the animals are coming from to make it easier, in theory, for somebody to find them.
Do you know, honestly, Nick, and I know a lot of people have their hands up, that a lot of people don't even call animal control anymore because we don't get response. We don't get response, so we handle it ourselves. There's a group of people out here, quite a large group of people, where we don't just kind of handle it ourselves because we know that it's not, unfortunately, the bottom of the
So two things. I don't want to know what handling ourselves means.
Like, we'll pick up the dog and bring it to you. I pick up dogs all the time and bring them to you.
And the second thing is you have my number now, Lisa.
Yes.
If you have an issue like that, I'm not saying I'll be able to get somebody to you right away, but let me know. Let me know if there's something that needs our attention.
Two final questions, but one's for Greg, the other's for Albert.
You're very top of your speaker.
Just a quick little note, as far as the future facility, I don't know if you considered this or not, but the old CHP building on 58 would be a prime location. It'd be visible and it's easy to get to, and that's probably a big enough piece of property for an animal shelter. Right there.
It's funny you say that because we were actually looking about a year and a half ago at the fire station over on 58, and it was vacant at the time, and then I think the fire department decided to move back in it. Are you saying the CHP station is vacant?
CHP built a brand new facility just, I can't remember the directions. It's east of the old facility, and it's actually back behind it. But their old one that was sitting right out on 58, I do not believe they're using that any longer.
Yeah, and I just wrote that down. I'll look into it because we literally need. I mean, we have about a year and 4 months or so left on that lease, so you know we need to get on the ball and find a new location. And I tell you, it is very difficult to shoehorn an animal shelter into an existing building. But
you could even leave CHP on there for county hound patrol.
That works.
Hey, Albert.
I've got two quick questions. One, what are the leash laws out here? Because I live in an area where people like to go walking and running with their dogs, and they take them off leashes and they're just running around.
So the leash law out here is the same as it is in the entire county and most of the state of California, which is if your dog's off your property, it has to be restrained, period. It doesn't matter if it's the friendliest dog in the world or not. It doesn't matter if you moved out into the country, it's still a leash law. And you can be ticketed for it, and we issue a lot of them.
Okay. The other one is, my wife took our dogs to be spayed and neutered, got chipped and everything. Then a year later, we got something in the mail saying that we had to re-register the chip, and it was going to cost like $150 a year in order to keep that updated. Is that something that's real, or are we getting like scam mail, or what's the deal with that?
So microchip manufacturers are like any other business. There's new companies that come out, and some fly by night and some not so much. I know that the chips that we issue, and I'm not promoting them at all, but Found Animals microchips, the registration and update process is free. I'm sure that there are organizations that charge. Now, I can't talk about I don't know what your specific situation is, but there are some organizations that will send you something that says, pay $150, it will continue to give you these special services. But if you don't pay that information of your name, address, and phone number is still on that microchip and always will be. It's just that they'll sell you some higher level of service that includes, you know, I don't know, you know, they'll contact you and all your relatives and everybody you've ever known or something like that, you know, and give you some coupons for dog food or something like that. So there's probably an additional service that's supposedly included in that. You know.
Probably not like the cars, domain URL notices you get.
Yeah.
Pay us $150 or you go to GoDaddy and pay $15 to do the same thing.
Albert, just so that you know, my dog is a service dog. In fact, I was just showing Dennis, I actually have a card for her that I'm her handler. And with her chip, I do have to register her, and she's like $120 a year, but she is a service dog, and I have a handler's card for her. And so you might want to check with the service that you register your animal with. They might have that same service, not just for service animals, but you get a picture of your animal, you send in a picture that you can really see the animal, and then it registers your name. You carry that with you. If you ever lose your animal, first of all, you can use this to go in and they can scan this card to find your animal, but also you go on a national registry. With Pebbles being a service dog, no matter where I'm at, if she was to ever get loose, like if we were traveling and she got out of the trailer and just decided to go play, they could utilize this card to find her. So look and see if that's something that they're trying to charge you for that dollar amount.
Okay, Fran.
I just have one last thing to say is, on the corner of Locust and 20th, it's old Dusty's salvage yard, and there's a bunch of feral cats over there that people keep feeding. And it's really sort of a sad situation because there's a lot of hawks there, so that's like, are you feeding these to feed the hawks, or, and then they're just breeding more, you know, wild cats over there, so you might want to check that out. I know they're meaning well, but it's not working out.
Yeah, so I don't really have a good answer for you on that. So cats are difficult. Cats are, what we've seen were, I probably need to, I gotta get the bums rush off the stage here in a second. What we've seen a lot is a lot of improvement on shelter intake declining and euthanasia declining on dogs. What we have not seen is a decrease in the overall intake of cats. It continues to either flatten out or increase. When we talk about the major problems that face animal welfare in Kern County, most people don't realize it's not really dogs, it's cats. There's more cats than you could possibly imagine that are feral and free roaming in the county of Kern. And you know, we have a trap, neuter, release program that fixes those animals and re-releases them, but I do not have any way of bringing that service out to the Mojave Animal Shelter. I don't have a veterinarian that can do those surgeries. So, and we can't, we can't because it's illegal, because there's no leash law that says it's illegal to let cats roam free. It's a silly non-existence of the law. But we don't actively pick up cats in the field, only dogs. So that, like that particular situation, we would literally need a community partner that was willing to trap those cats and bring them in. I mean, if we want to see them humanely altered and released back out to the property to maintain that population, you would literally have to drive into Bakersfield to do that. Well, otherwise, they'd go to the Mojave Shelter, and we do not have to.
I'm just letting you know, I'm not about trapping.
Have a heart hatchery does that, I believe.
They do have spay neuter in that.
And they capture the feral cats. You guys, they take them somewhere and they.
I think hatchery vet.
No, it's hatchery vet.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
Legally
Appreciate it.
independent animals?
Say again?
Aren't cats legally an independent
They're
animal?
considered a wild animal.
Cats? No. No. Cats are domesticated animals, whether they're free roaming or not.
Depends on the size. I mean, there's big.
The only reason I touch on that is because there are trappers who have wildlife permits, and they have tried to tell us in years past, this wasn't recently, that they have the legal right to trap a cat and dispatch it because they have a wildlife trapper's permit. The state of California says that felines are not wildlife, and they cannot be relocated.
Well, thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, community announcements. Does anyone have one? Yes, Jeff.
Chuck?
John.
That's you.
Oh,
Did you change
really?
it to Chuck? We'll change it to Chuck if you'd like.
Dennis and I, before we came here, went to a meeting that Edwards Air Force Base had at the library. I heard about it on Tuesday. There were at least 10 or 15 highly paid people from the base wanting to talk to Roseman people. We called them on Tuesday and informed them that we had a chamber meeting and an RMAC meeting the same night. Could they move it or come here? Impossible. Tonight, I talked to them again. Impossible to change the date. They're always going to come on the third Thursday of the month. So I issued 2 words. I said 2 words. Kevin McCarthy, we've got to change the third Thursday of the month to some other night. It's absolutely the worst time to bring all those people to have a meeting with Roseman people. There wasn't one other Roseman person there except Dennis I and the representative on the board.
Yeah.
That was a boring meeting.
No,
Yeah.
and no,
No, but we should send, the
recess for 10 minutes.
The RMAC should send a letter to Kevin and say, Kevin, change it to any other night, but not the third Thursday of the month.
Yeah, I think there's another way around that, but the meeting he's talking about is the Restoration Advisory Board. Edwards Air Force Base is on the national priorities list, or what they call the Superfund list. The 308,000 acres have, they divided the whole base into, I think, 10 or 12 operable units, and they're cleaning all that stuff up. And that began back when I was the environmental PA guy 20 years ago. So it takes a long time to research all that. They're forever holding meetings in the public so that everything is out in the open. There are no surprises. A lot of good that does, I told them tonight, if you pick a night, it's the worst night. I gotta tell you, I probably did that exact same thing when I did that. We were gonna have a triple header public meeting in Boron at the Desert Lake School. It was a Restoration Advisory Board meeting and then a public meeting about the beryllium cleanup they were going to do at the rocket site and the pentaborane cleanup. And pentaborane is an old rocket fuel that is incredibly lethal. So I checked all the meetings, but the one thing I didn't know about was that was the night of the big basketball game between Desert High School and Boron High School. Who knew? You know? And in spite of mailing notices to every single postal patron in Boron and surrounding area, in spite of posting notices everywhere we could possibly do and taking out newspaper ads and radio announcements, we had a grand total of 12 people that showed up, including 3 homeless guys looking for donuts. So it's a Herculean task, but I offered to our representative, who is Bill Gaddis, he's our Roseman representative, on the Restoration Advisory Board. If any of you have any questions about the environmental cleanup at Edwards, you can call him at 661-965-7771 and ask him all about that. Matter of fact, he wants to get on our agenda for an update. He needs to come out here and do that. So, but I told him that they picked the absolute worst night, and with a little bit of planning ahead, they could avoid that. They can't hold their meeting at the same time. At this meeting or the chamber meeting, that's impossible. We can have a rep come out and brief, and that's probably the thing to do. But that's what happens tonight.
Okay, any public comments?
I have something to announce under announcements. This Saturday, May 18th at 5 p.m., the VFW will be auxiliary. We'll be doing their steak dinner, their monthly steak dinner. It's $15 for steak, salad, dessert, the whole 9 yards. $15 goes to support the auxiliary so we can help support the VFW. So last month, unfortunately, they only sold a couple dinners and lost quite a bit of money. So this month they're trying to get everyone out to come support them and we're trying to get some stuff done to the building. So we need support from our community for this VFW steak dinner for the auxiliary.
And it's how much?
What time?
$15.
It's 5 to 7. It's open to the public. Children are welcome to come too. But it's nice. They set up the table with like white linen and china.
What day was it?
Very nice. This Saturday at 5 p.m.
Where is that?
At the VFW here locally, which is actually
20th
on
Street.
El Rey. 1919 El Rey.
You got this street.
1919, right?
1990.
1990 El Rey. But it sits on the corner of El Rey and 20th.
Okay, any other public comments?
I have an announcement on June 13th, the Kern Historical Society will have their meeting. We'll wrap it up for the summer. We go dark on July and August, and we come back in October. And we had a great turnout for our 60th anniversary, which was on the 9th of May at the library. And I thank everybody who showed up. It was really great.
And what time is that? And
It starts at 5 and it gets over at 7.
Okay.
Where's
And
that?
that's at the library?
It's at, no, this one is gonna be at the saloon in Willow Springs, off of 90th. So, come on out. And they're gonna be discussing Ezra Hamilton a little bit and then try to meet and greet with people that are there, so. Okay, thanks.
Because we're running a little late, I'm going to try to speed up the latter portion of the meeting here and stuff. Into the business meeting, we have a few items that we want to status. The first one is the new revised crosswalks and upgrades to signalized crosswalks. We will have a draft letter at our next meeting that will lay out all the locations, what we would like to see at each of those crosswalks, things of that nature. I even have a fellow that's going to come in and do light readings for me to tell me what the ambient lighting is at 2 o'clock in the morning here in Roseman and various places. The intent is to put the information out for the county mic so that they don't have to do some of the legwork. They can kind of take it aboard and figure out how soon they can incorporate it and stuff like that. But that's where we stand with that. Waste Management Services, Lisa, can you touch on that?
Yes, so Allie from Waste Management is here with us tonight, and we've been in contact also with Friends Help, which I thank you. She has agreed, and Waste Management has agreed to do a bulky pickup for us. We are agreeing upon July 20th, which will be a Saturday. Bulky pickup, that means that Waste Management here locally in Roseman will open their gates. Anybody that has any bulky items, mattresses, furniture, anything that we can't get to the dump, we need to publicize that they are willing for us to bring it here, dump it here, they'll take it for us. We're hoping this will cut down on the desert dumping a lot, so we really do need to publicize this. John, we're gonna ask that maybe we can get that in the paper.
Sure.
Just so people will know that they're offering this, so we can get rid of our desert dumping, because the
Sure.
desert dumping around here is outrageous. So, yes, Gail.
Question for you, on that day, because we had a illegal dump cleanup plan, and then when we were not able to take it to the dump, if we go out and pick up things around, will we be able to take in multiple items?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I already had the volunteers lined up for us.
Yes.
And they told us just pull it out to the county easement and we'll come pick it up the next day.
And I believe this is gonna be quarterly, correct, Ally? Yes, there'll be quarterly dates set, so we can make it known within the community that Waste Management is extending this to us for those who can't get to the dump, or can't find the dumper, it costs too much to go to the dumper, they can't,
Or they don't have a car.
don't have a vehicle to get, your truck to get out there, and that's a big problem that a lot of people have, is they don't have a vehicle to dates for us.
Do we know what time that would be?
What time will it be, Ally?
It typically, I have to check with them, it would be from 8 to 12 or 8 to 1.
So morning,
Get our
afternoon.
afternoon together
Yep.
and pick it up in the morning and then still have time to get it over there.
So we'll get exact times this next week or so, and we'll have it for the next meeting for everyone.
So what about those that still don't have the transportation to even
So
get it
I
out there?
think what we're gonna try to do is, I know I'll be available that day. Well, Ray will be available that day with the truck. We'll get as many trucks available as possible, and I'll put it out there, like, we're willing to help you. Well, I'll be willing to help, come get this stuff.
We
If
could
you
do
have
that, put that
something,
in a flyer,
that
get
you
some
need-
volunteers with trucks.
yeah, get some volunteers, we'll get some volunteers together.
I have a pickup with
Yep.
sides on it.
Lisa,
We can do it.
Our favorite place over there has got mattresses piled up involved?
Yes, I know.
Okay.
I'll get him out. So yeah, we'll get
I have a
the,
tough, would be trailer.
okay. Oh, you have 2 trailers? I have a hitch. I have no trailer.
It's a plan.
Perfect, so it's a plan, so we'll get it together. Cool. Thank you, Ally. Thank you.
Parks and Recreation, community swimming pool, skate park, and Glendale Park. We've talked about this a little bit already in the meeting and everything. We're still doing some research on this. One of the things that's kind of slowing us out is there's been a transfer of authority between RCSD and Parks and Recreation on all of the financial paperwork and stuff associated with the swimming pool. So I went back in today with a message to the county today asking for a point of contact with the county that will deal with the community pool. One of the problems we have is that Kern County is not overrun with public pools. We're the only one that has one in the whole county. The rest of the county has no public pools except for the city of Bakersfield. So Parks and Recreation is going to probably be a new thing for them to learn, to deal with. And this is part of why we're looking at ways that we can make this thing run without it being a financial wound for someone.
Bill, all of the other high school teams in the Antelope Valley, the teams swim in public pools. And I mentioned that to Zach, and he wants to explore that very concept. Cooperation between the school for swim team, diving team, and public park.
Oh, perfect. And I would like to try to get some of our commercial businesses around to perhaps help defray some of those costs as well. I think that would be a great advertisement for a company having a sign on the side of the swimming pool saying, you know,
In partnership with?
Yeah, in partnership with, and you know, for 2019, 2020, whatever the case may be. Great advertisement. Even like for the solar companies, it might help make them a little more palatable to some people. So,
I don't know about that.
well, you never know. But it's something to consider.
Just as long as they don't build right by my house.
NIMBY.
They're not bad neighbors.
That is true.
They do attend our meetings as well. So
Okay.
Well, it's not like there isn't plenty of open areas. Why do you have to build around a neighborhood? I don't get it.
Well,
Okay.
Bill, before
Bill,
we move
let's
on to
move
that.
forward.
All right, new community bank is the last item here under the business meeting. We've been working on this. I've talked with Bart Hill of United Security Bank. He's about the only person at this point that has an interest in opening a bank here in Roseman. But I think there's a disconnect between what he's looking for and what I thought he was looking for. And even Alexia, who's with EA, she had the impression also that it was a little bit different than what we're looking for. So we're trying to get that clarified and stuff.
What was the name of the bank?
It's United Security Bank. I thought it was US Bank, you know, but it's a different outfit. But we are working on that. I don't, at this point, I don't have a timeline or anything on it, but just let you know that we're still looking at it, still trying to make something happen in that regard.
Good.
Okay, old business, East Roseman access for emergency vehicles. This is an ongoing item. As you remember last month, Dr. David Smith talked about Edwards is very supportive of this. They're looking at the legal aspects of this as well, because you got to be careful sometimes when you're making up letters of support and stuff like that. So we're kind of hoping that letter will come through here pretty soon so we can move this on to the next stage. Administration office space, files, and equipment. Just got an update before tonight's meeting. I'm anticipating that we will be moving into our new office in the month of June, possibly toward the end of the month, so we have to go shopping for furniture. But it will be here in Hummel Hall, right there. Once we are moved in, we'll figure out hours of operation, things of that nature. It's probably going to be an appointment basis type system initially, because there's only a couple of us old retired people that have nothing else to do, right, Dennis? But
Yeah, I know you can get
Merciful
some really,
Zot.
I know where you can get some really cool, these 2 file cabinets. They're beige.
the ones that are locked.
Yeah, you unlock them, we'll come get them.
We'll get those soon, Jack, we'll get those soon.
Excellent.
So I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you displaced the senior
No, ma'am.
No, they're gonna be right there.
people? Okay, because
So they'll just move everything.
I
in
heard
there.
a rumor,
Yeah, well, of course.
so I'm
It's all
asking.
true.
With every rumor, there's always a grain of truth. I mean, we did ask for an office space from the county. There was one that was determined that would be suitable for us. It's in this building. We are not taking any permanent possession of anything. But it has never been intended to be solely for the retired community. There's a portion of the building here that should be free and available to county government for doing business here in Roseman.
Yeah, right now they have both spaces, but they can, the stuff they have there, and consolidate everything in that other one, which is much bigger than this.
So they
This is the smaller
still
space.
have an office.
It's
Oh, yes, they
already,
do.
it's already done,
Yes,
yeah,
they
they've
do.
already moved everything over. as
Everything's
far as I
been
know.
moved. The only thing that's left to do is painting and some little bit of repair work in there, and then our furniture.
And the hot tub.
That's not a visual I want.
Okay, not last item, but item C, Brown Act and Ethics Training. I'm pleased to report that all of the directors have completed both the Brown Act training and the ethics training. So we are all on board with that. Any new people that come to the board, we'll schedule them for their respective training so that we keep that credential up to date. Okay, last item, RMAC special vacancies. Do you have an update on that of any kind, Mike?
No, not yet. I don't think there's a deadline on the applications. I think Zach's just wanting to get the word out so we can get as many applications in as possible, or resumes.
New business, long and short-term goals for 2019, 2020, 2021. I handed out a few items tonight. There's one that's called the Roseman pedestrian plan. We talked about this a couple of different times over the last few months. I figured that somebody had ran away with our money and we didn't get anything for it. And then lo and behold, this piece of paperwork falls out of the sky. Must have landed somewhere close to Fran's because she found it. Gave it to Lisa Checkley, and then I found out about it. So
Well, I tried to post it on your site, but I couldn't get on it.
okay, but the point is it has details on a community walkway which is going to go from, I believe, somewhere by United and work its way up and then come down 20th Street here. There is some point of contention as to whether that's the full scope of what we originally submitted or not. And unfortunately, I can't find my notes yet at this point.
Yeah, but then, this is what I remember from the meeting.
Okay, you remember that, Dennis?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is what I remember.
But that is the old guy sitting next to me that's
Right.
retired, so.
Well, I don't remember, well, I know when I came to fill out the things that we needed,
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like a whole lot more than what they're giving us.
That's kind of the way I feel, Fran. I thought there was a section that we were going to do on 30th Street West because the kids have to walk on that asphalt from that subdivision down there all the way up to Rosamond Boulevard.
No, I
But
just-
you know,
this is
all we
it.
did was we marked a bunch of boards, and I just know there was a lot on there.
Mhm.
And what they gave us is, I have no clue, it just seems less than what we asked for, from my
Well,
memory, so.
This picture right here, isn't this where the new building is going up? So they would be doing the improvement, so it's automatically, it would be removed from our wish list because it's already being maintained. They're gonna be
The
maintained.
way I see it, we just move down to the next beer spot, wherever that may be. I mean, because it's
Well,
roughly almost $1 million for this work that's going to be done, so.
Right, but since whatever money allotted for us to do this, we wouldn't have to do this because they're gonna do it, can't we move that someplace else?
We can certainly start exploring that to see.
Well, it's just an answer to my prayer because I'm planning on starting a nonprofit on 20th, right over next to Mimi someday.
Okay, and the other item, this is something I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on tonight, but I hear this almost every Saturday when I'm out in my yard. It sounds like a war zone up there on the hill behind the high school. And it is an unauthorized gun range. People are using it. I think that piece of land used to belong to Dan Spoor, I think. I'm not sure.
Well, he used to own a mine out there, but I don't think that's where they're shooting.
Yeah, it's an engraved, looks like a gravel pit, and they get down in the bottom of the gravel pit and they shoot.
And that's been around for a long time.
That's where we used to take hay rides to,
Mhm.
back in the day with Jim.
But I'm kind of curious if anyone else is concerned about it. If they're not, then it doesn't bother me either.
It could be a
just,
concern.
Hmm?
It could be a concern.
Yeah, that's, the only reason was a concern for me is I did find a shell in my driveway.
Right.
Yeah, but they missed.
And it's hard to believe that they missed this old, big, large, slow-moving target. But I think it was probably from some celebration or something like that. It was probably shot up in the air, and it may not have even come from over there. But it caused me to think about it, and I've seen other people complain about it on social media, and I'm just wondering how much of a concern it is.
I think it'd be a good idea to look into it, see if something can be done, or some kind of noise ordinance or something like that.
Well, I know the sheriffs go up and around there because you take Bacchus and head west. When you first drop down in, you make the first left and you drive way up in there. That's where typically you see a lot of them. They'll take old tires and mattresses and such, and they kind of build their own little berm, and they shoot right up into the hill. But that stuff does ricochet. It goes all over the place. And I know the sheriffs go up there all the time, because when I lived up there, I was like, they're back. And I wanted to stop. I want to go to bed.
Right.
So they were up there all the time.
Well, they're working on Bacchus.
Yes, Howard.
I have talked to the sheriffs about that before, because I do go shooting out there, and then also off in United. And they told me several times that as long as you're, I think, like 150 feet or like 100 yards or something off of the road, shooting in a safe direction, then it's perfectly legal.
We'll do some more checking. How's that?
Okay. Alrighty. Any referrals from the directors?
No?
No? Okay. Any director's comments? Dennis?
No?
Donna?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes, thank you, Nick, for coming. Long
Yeah, that was
drive.
outstanding.
That was
Thank
great.
you.
Appreciate it very much. That's all.
Okay. And I have no comments. I've already talked to the majority.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
Okay.
Aye.
That's the way
All
our
in favor?
adjournments go
Aye.
too.